Hey, this is Kevin Gaither, and I'm a guest on the Real Estate Investing Podcast. It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
That's right.
All right, we're going to talk about some real estate investing?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it.
Are you thinking about investing in real estate, building your net worth and your income, but you're just not sure where to start? I'm Joe Garner. I'm a mortgage officer and an investor. Let's explore your options on financing your investment property. Connect with me at jogarner.com. Call or text me 901-482-0354. Proud to be a sponsor of It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere Real Estate Podcast.
Welcome back to It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere Real Estate Investor Podcast. Kevin's going to join us again. We had so much information, we had to cut it up into 2 episodes. So now that we've covered all the how your mind has changed from when you started to now, how your formula's changed, how you see real estate investment has changed, I want to talk about the 3 you just closed on.
Great.
All right. So just for our listeners, Kevin bought 3 more properties. They were turnkey from one of our builders. They were fully rehabbed. There's going to be an MHA tenant in place by the seller, not at Kevin's expense, and he's putting a 1-year bill of warranty on the property. Why did you choose to go that route? Let's pay top dollar or a little bit more money for a turnkey property versus picking something up that needs $10,000 and you could do it yourself. What drew you to those 3 properties?
Well,
'cause I sent you a list of like 8 or 9 and you picked these 3 specifically.
yeah. Well, again, this is, we put it in the spreadsheet. You send an email with a bunch of these properties on the email. And the very first thing that my wife and I did was put it in a spreadsheet, put the economics of those properties into the spreadsheet. And of course, then I had to do my own diligence and looking at what the property taxes were going to be and getting quotes on insurance and what that was going to be and starting to do our own math on how profitable these properties and then literally sort from ascending to descending.
And that's how you came up with the top 3.
That was how we came up with the absolute, top 3. Now, the turnkey component is
No, let's clarify.
Yeah.
Turnkey is you're not buying some pimped out granite countertop stainless steel Travestine tile home.
No.
When you say turnkey, rental turnkey, you're talking about a basic remodel to a basic rent-ready condition, meaning you're not putting in fancy tile and a shower and a glass-in door. You're going to put in a tub insert.
This is an investment.
Insert.
It's an investment.
Because why? As soon as that tenant destroys that or cracks it or breaks it, you just pop out the insert, put a new one in. If they break a tile, you got to pull all the tiles down and retile. Yeah, so you don't want to buy a property that's not built for tenants. You want to buy not really tenant proof, but has less expense should you have to fix something.
Yeah, no.
And we talked about LVP versus LVT, right?
Yes, which I didn't know.
LVP is interlocking. You got to rip the whole floor out to replace one damaged piece. LVT, you peel a piece up, put a new piece down, done.
Well, that's right.
For $4.
That's right. The idea here, of course, and I know this now from reality and writing checks, it's not a matter of if that kind of stuff happens. It's just knowing that it will happen, okay? So a sink will break, a toilet's going to break. Stuff is just going to break. And if you're focused on like dialing this dang thing in, so it's like you would live in it, and you've got, fantastic travertine tile or something like that. And remember, this is also a business. This is also a business.
I'd just rather you give that $2,000 to me and let me put LVP in for you.
Exactly. And so the idea of having this, turnkey property that has very replaceable but quality workmanship within the property already, what that means to me is that over the next several years, my maintenance costs and my capital expenditures are going to be a lot lower because a brand new furnace is going to go in there. A brand new condenser is going to go outside with a cage outside of it. Okay. And in California,
new roof, new flooring,
new flooring. Like these are all like great. And I'm purchasing it. That means our maintenance costs, in theory, not guaranteed, our maintenance costs are going to be much, much lower. And then when the builder
1-year bill of warranty too.
I was just going to say, that's right. When the builder then says, I'm going to fix this stuff for, the first 12 months, if anything breaks, great. So then I know my maintenance costs are likely going to be very, very low in that, which means that's more profitable to my business. And that makes sense. And when you combine that with the 1% rule and go, great, these, properties that we just purchased, 146, 153, and they're renting out, they're going to rent for $1,450, $1,500, $1,550, maybe $1,650, who knows? Those are really positive indicators and profitable, indicators for these properties. it's all a go. And again, there's no guarantees to any of this, of course, but we've put ourselves in a position to improve our probabilities of success. When you've got a turnkey property in a good, strong rental market, in a we can talk about Frayser in particular. It's up and coming. Yep. It's an improving market. Let's just put it. It's an improving marketplace. 5 years ago, maybe we wouldn't have invested in Frayser.
No, I mean, I told you in the car 5 years ago, you and I probably wouldn't have driven in and driven back out of Frayser at that point.
Alive.
Right. Alive. We'd have been delivered in a black bag. We talked about Raleigh, which is a market next door to Frayser that went through a huge upward trajectory over the last 7 years, thanks to Amazon and Nike. Now those homes are $150,000. So what are investors doing? They're going into Frayser because you can still buy an $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 house, fix it up, sell it for $130,000, $140,000, $150,000. You get good rents, and now we're watching Frayser take that upward trajectory. So I always look for opportunity like that for my investors. A lot of agents don't. They're coattailers, right? They'll still go try to sell their investors' property in Raleigh because it's safe, it's already capped out, and those investors are going to see a very minimal rise in value versus getting into a situation where you may pay $130,000 for a house, $140,000, but then 10 years from now it's worth $200,000 because that whole market is just taken off.
So, Kevin, just for the newer people that are getting into real estate, to sum up what you said, basically spend a little extra on the front end. It'll save you in the long run, especially if you're planning on getting a property, putting a tenant in there and keeping it for the long haul. You'll save on the maintenance costs and things on the back end, which will give you a greater ROI.
Yeah, yes. And I'm going to yes and you on that. And that's a really, really good reminder, by the way, because while I run a business, my wife and I run a business, and a business that is well run is one where our costs are kept in check. Okay. There are certain costs that are well worth the investment. And here's an example of this. Each of these properties, we're in Memphis, Tennessee. Okay, so there's bugs, there's termites. You know how much it costs to do the termite treatment on each of these properties? $500. $500 each. Do I want to spend $500? Absolutely not. However,
how often do you have to do that?
Every 2-3 years.
Okay,
that's right. At least that's what Brett tells me.
But
Make sure that I do.
Hey, that came from Justin. So
there you go.
But if
it doesn't work, it's his fault.
Down the line,
well, that's right.
You spend triple or whatever it is, but you're going to come out way more than $500.
That is correct.
Just spend the $500 on the front end, save you on the back end because you don't know how bad it's going to get on the back end.
Yeah, that's right. So there's this balance that my wife and I have to in running our business. There are certain expenses that we want to make sure that we're not paying too much for painting, and we're not paying too much for other maintenance items. But then there's being penny wise and pound foolish. Spending the $500 while I don't want to spend $500 if I don't have to. Spending $500 on a termite treatment on a property right now, and every 2-3 years, it is going to save us money, so much money down the line, because when there's the damage, and now I need to do a lot more replacement.
And Memphis is prone for termites. We're a southern, warm, moist climate.
Yep.
Perfect for
climate.
termites.
So that is a perfect recipe for termites.
That's exactly
and
right.
especially with the 1% rule. Well, by the time 2 or 3 years comes, you're not even gonna notice the $500 that you're spending again. For the termites.
That's exactly right.
I mean, you're going to be spending out the profit at that point, or you should be, or maybe coming from your oh shit fund.
Yeah, that's right.
While we're talking about paying up front, have you had learning experiences along your journey where you paid out money up front and it didn't really materialize to be a benefit?
Boy, let me think about that. Paid out money up front and it didn't turn out. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. No, I can't think of anything right off. I know what you're saying. I can't think of a story right now. Maybe I've tucked it way back where I made the investment and I got screwed, and I've put it in a dark place in my head. But I can't think of anything.
That's quite a positive thing, though, that nothing springs to mind.
Yeah, that's right. Now, that doesn't mean blindly doing it. So, again, I'm just going to call it out here, right? This is the trust but verify, Richard.
As in Reagan.
Yes, the termite person calls me up and says, you really should put this, do the treatment on the property. And I'm thinking, You're the salesperson. Of course you're going to tell me, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Of course he should. You know who I called? I called Brett. And I said, tell me the truth, man. Do I really need to do this? And he goes, 100%. Absolutely. I advise all my investors to do the termite treatment. But
don't sign a contract.
Don't sign the yearly contract. Don't, whatever. And that's the kind of stuff that when you can develop a relationship with a real estate salesperson that can tell you what to buy and what not to buy, even if it's in their best interest to do stuff, that's when you're dealing with somebody that you can trust. And that's the trust but verify. The freaking termite person is telling me that I should. I'm going to question that. And I'm going to go get guidance.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've experienced it in management. I mean, you send a plumber to a house to fix a leaky pipe. Next thing you know, you got a bid for $4,000 to replace faucets and do this and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we talked about the upsell or the white zone.
Yes, yes.
You're a giant white zone, right, to them. Because
that's correct.
You're an investor with money. Your house probably we should do this. Not necessary, but we should. So let's pitch it to them.
Yeah.
And a lot of investors say, fine, do it. If it needs to be done, do it. And they just throw their money out the window.
Yeah.
And then a year later do their finances, be like, well, this property sucks. Well, no, you suck as an investor because you're not putting your time and effort into managing your business such as you and Laney are.
Yeah, that's right.
And let's be honest, we're in real estate, termite inspectors. I mean, it's a sales business.
Oh, yeah.
So as an investor, you never really know. You have to be a good judge of character, so to speak, to know what is coming off salesy and genuine. And also, like you said, that's where your verify and trust process comes in, where you do your due diligence, call other insurance companies, get quotes, or, whatever, other termite companies or whatever, to build your team of trustworthy professionals.
Yeah, yeah.
And you have to understand, you have to realize that when Kevin asked me that question, I was the right person to ask that question because I have no financial benefit from him doing termites or not.
Yep, you're not getting any.
If I tell Kevin not to do it, and then a year and a half from now they're tearing out the back wall of the house and rebuilding it for $20,000 because he didn't treat it on my advice, then that's my fault because you asked me my advice. So that's why I always tell every investor, yes, treat. It's $500. Treat it. What's it going to hurt?
I think everyone should do
because
it. Even
as soon as you don't treat it, as soon as you say no, you'll end up with termites and massive damage. It's how it always works. So,
that's right.
Now, I have investors I advise to treat it, and they don't. And I've had some lose money over that.
I bet they treat them now, though, huh?
Oh, yeah. They do.
The question is, have you ever met a termite person that is just like Dale from King of the Hill?
I have not. Oh, Justin's kind of close.
Dale.
Justin's kind of close. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess to verify, you got to verify with people that really don't have any skin in the game. My skin in the game is making sure what I sold him performs. And the only way I can make sure it performs is that it stays intact, it stays in good condition, and it continues to produce rent without outpouring of money to keep replacing and fixing stuff. So, of course, and Justin, our termite guy, understands that about me. He knows. I always advise that you do it. He knows I'm not going to give a sales pitch on his behalf. He calls you and tells you what he thinks, and then I'm going to tell you my honest opinion. He knows that. So he's not ever looking for me to pitch it for him. You always do. I think that's smart. That $500 is well spent.
Oh, my gosh.
If you spend $1,500 over the next 10 years and never have to tear out windows and walls to replace it with termite damage.
That's right.
That $1,500 was well spent.
100%. Yeah. Well, again, that's the, penny wise and pound foolish. Right. I don't need to spend money on high-end paint or high-end appliances in these properties. But where I am going to spend the money is when I know it's going to be worth it in the long haul. Here's another example. Your air conditioning unit needs to be replaced.
Well, did it quit working?
What's that?
No, not yet. It hadn't quit working yet.
Well, yes. Okay, so
But
can
it's
we?
going
It's getting
to.
old.
How
My
old?
mom's getting old too, but does that mean I put her in the ground and get another one? I'm still going.
Yeah, but you have to ask those questions, And I was talking to one of our property managers just yesterday, and there's a point at which you're like, well, we could fix it, we could repair it. But it's a
Right.
15-year unit. It's a 20-year unit. You could fix it, but the same thing is probably going to happen
Sure.
next year. And she gave
It's
me
just a matter of when.
well, that's right. And she gave me this thought process that, like, look, if the cost of the repair is like half of the cost of replacing it, just replace it.
Because it's got a 7-year warranty on it once you replace it. So you just spent another $2,000, but you have a 7-year warranty on that product.
Yeah, that's right. So
Makes total financial sense.
That's right. So that's where I'm like, I've learned these things over time to where it's like, I don't want to spend the money. I would rather not spend that money. But again, this goes back to doing your own math and making sure that you're reserving for maintenance. You're reserving for capital expenditures. You're reserving for vacancies. You're building your math around all of those things already because they will happen. You will have vacancies. You will have an HVAC unit that goes out.
Yeah.
You will have to replace that.
It's just what comes with it.
It
comes with the house. And like you said about your brother, your temperament should be in check if you're going to get into this business because things happen unexpectedly. Like you said, tenants, they trash your place, they move out, they're upset for whatever.
Yeah.
The HVAC or air conditioning unit, like you were just saying, spend it up front, especially you're already going into it with the mind frame of it's an investment. So you're investing the 15, whatever for the new system to be put in place. Mm-hmm. In the long run, you're going to make it back because the goal is to make a profit over time until the property is paid off.
Well, yeah, but if you can invest an extra $500 in your stock account to get a guarantee from your stockbroker, you do it, right?
100%.
100%.
Exactly.
So that's all you're doing is guaranteeing you're not going to have a termite problem and cost yourself $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 down the road.
Just get a new one, new
I don't know how we got stuck on termites, but Jesus.
Well, you just love termites. One question I do have for you: you've talked about many ways in which you mitigate risk, mitigate potential costs further down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever looked at home warranties, considered home warranties, or even used home warranties?
Considered, never purchased. Considered, never purchased, mainly because people have told me you end up spending more and there's the deductibles that you've got to meet before they'll do this, that, and the other there. I'm sure there's situations where it can work. And again, like I said, Richard, the older I get, the more I realize I don't know shit. And so maybe somebody can teach me how home warranties make sense.
I have investors that put home warranties on their investment properties. I have investors that don't. The ones that do say, well, it covers the major roof and it covers the HVAC and it covers the stove and the garage door and all these things that are major expenses. There is a deductible. Mm-hmm. I'll give you an example. I've got a guy that's paid for home warranties for the last 7 years and never used it. So is it a waste of money? Yeah. So is car insurance.
So far.
If you don't wreck your car insurance is a waste of money.
Mm-hmm.
But I have another investor that has it on all of his properties. He's used it 4 or 5 times. He has a house in Cordova, 2-car garage. Garage door just collapsed, fell off the hinges, boom, done.
Mm-hmm.
It cost him $350, and the home warranty company installed a new motor, new door, new tracks, everything.
Great.
Okay, that would have probably cost him $2,000 or $3,000. He had a roof issue. Wasn't due to a storm. It was just something. I don't remember what it was. Something happened with the roof. And it created a leak. Maybe it was the ice or leaching or something. The insurance company said, well, the roof wasn't maintained properly, so it's not our fault. We're not filing a claim. The home warranty company actually paid for the repair. They've replaced a stove. They've replaced air conditioner.
Mm-hmm.
So in his mind, yeah, I've spent $2,000 or $3,000, but I've probably saved $15,000.
Sure. There you go.
Right. So I think it's really up to what your personal preference is and
Correct.
How comfortable you feel with the people you have on your team, to be honest with you.
That's right.
Yes, there is a deductible.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
There are companies out there that they're geared to screw you on home warranties. That's just what they're geared to do. That's what their plan is.
Sure.
But there are a couple of good ones out there that have some decent plans. But I would say if you decide to put a home warranty on your rental property, get the information, the regular plan, the platinum plan, the gold, and the gold plus plan, and really look at it and understand what your deductible is, understand what it covers.
That's right.
Car warranty companies are the same way. Oh, yeah, we'll cover your car bumper to bumper if you'll pay a $4,000 deductible on a $300 part.
That's right.
Right.
Well, on top of that, though, and make sure if you look, this is a business. I'm just going to say it again. If you're going to buy a home warranty, make sure you bake that cost into your business.
That's an expense.
It is an expense. Now, I'm just going to go back to our philosophy. We have not purchased a home warranty previously, Richard, but we don't need to when we, A, have an oh shit fund that we've already built up, already there, that's out there, and we're already reserving for maintenance and capital expenditures. Those are 2 separate line items. Why would I throw a third line item in there of a home warranty when, especially buying at the 1% rule, there's plenty of cash built in to self-insure, so to speak, like self-warranty. And this is the shameless plug for Brett. I'm buying these properties that we just purchased. We've got a 12-month home warranty with the builder.
Yes.
He will go fix
He's
it.
He's the one rehabber builder that gives a warranty with his rehabs. Not many people do.
No, and that is
So you would need it in that situation. But
that's correct.
As a young investor getting your first rental property, maybe buying a home warranty for the first 3 or 4 years until you get the OS fund built up
There
and
you
get
go.
your cash flows stabilized, and then you can drop the home warranty because now you've built your self-insured nest egg to deal with that property.
That's right.
So it could be a way to help double insure. In your case, I wouldn't recommend it because, like you said, you've built up those surpluses, and Terry's warrantying your property for a year anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Would make
that's
sense.
exactly right. But your point is well taken, Richard, in that it's about your level of risk, frankly, and if it makes you feel better at night, and you can, this one investor can't sleep,
right?
If you pay whatever it costs to have a home warranty, and that allows you to have that calmness,
one less thing to worry about,
then fine, then do it. That's a perfect example of the money that's worth the spend if you're like not worrying about it. You know?
Yep. Yeah.
And do I like paying to an accountant to do my taxes on my investment property, my LLC, every single year? Do I like paying that? No, I do not.
But it's easier than sitting in federal prison.
That's right. That's right. Or getting sued into oblivion,
right,
if somebody gets hurt, in our properties, we sleep better at night when we pay that premium on the umbrella policy, and we sleep better at night when we have the LLC, pay those annual registration fees for God knows what I'm paying for, and the accountant. To each his own. And so if it makes the investor feel better, go ahead, buy that. It doesn't. In our investment philosophy, it doesn't work for our situation.
Gotcha. Okay.
Great question, Richard. I love that.
Well, I know many of our listeners, they're teetering on investing. So seeing as you're an investor and you're an investor today, it's April 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about some of the properties you've just bought and how those deals look?
Yeah. So it's a lot different than they were back in 2007, 8, 9, or whatever, And many people now that I'm buying properties, they're like, but with interest rates, they're so high. How does it make any sense? And da 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 da. And what if this and what if that? And the
comes back to that magic business word, cash flow.
Cash flow. That's exactly right. So okay. Let's put it into the spreadsheet. Does it make any sense? And putting it all in there. So, these properties. We'll talk about the first one, Bitter Creek. Bitter Creek, $153,000 should be an MHA, Section 8 tenant that should go in hopefully at $1,550 or more.
Yeah. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath.
4-bedroom, 2-bath.
So minimum $15,000 to $1,550. Minimum. Probably going to be higher than that.
That'd be great. But even at, by the way. Perfect example. You know what I hear when he says $1,550, maybe higher, probably higher? I go maybe $1,500.
Yeah.
Because that's
and that's a good way to look at it.
That's even though I trust Brett, I'm still going to go right. But let's just say it doesn't.
Look, if your worst case scenario works,
yes,
there's only one way to go, and that's up.
It's gravy.
But if your best case scenario is trying to squeeze out
that's right.
to make a deal work, it's probably not a good deal.
Yeah, that's right. And so, looking at the property, $153,000, $1,500, in rent, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, $900. Okay, now there's $600 left over to cover what? Property management at 9% through Enterprise Property Management. You've got 10% vacancy, 10% maintenance. I reserve about $200 a month for capital expenditures. There's no HOAs on these property. My wife calls them HMOs, by the way. They're not HMOs. They're HOAs.
They are.
Yeah, they're.
She's trying.
Yeah, I love it.
What does the M stand for?
An HMO? I don't know. Health
probably
maintenance.
a profound word, I would think. Probably a cuss word.
Yeah.
Probably moron.
Mother something.
Yeah, that's right. Just plunking those right into into the spreadsheet. The math ends up making sense. The math ends up mathing, and it was great. Brett, let's go buy 3. Let's go buy 3 of these. Why not? Now, 18 years ago, we bought 5 sight unseen. We were definitely shitting bricks. Mm-hmm. we were jumping in. 4 feet, both my wife and myself jumping into this business, and we were far more scared back then. But since we've seen enough over the last, 18 years of investing and know the kinds of things that, can go wrong and know where how we mitigate that risk, we feel, a lot better. And now the question becomes, how do I go buy like 10 more of these in Frayser that make sense now, and that in 5 years, the math won't math. The 1% rule won't make any sense in those areas because the property values have appreciated. Right.
You might have thought with that motorcycle in the background that Jeff had arrived. But he's still not here.
I'm disappointed Jeff didn't show up because I have a bottle of Johnny Walker Blue and a bottle of Johnny Walker Black on my back seat as a gift from Kevin here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
We're going to drink some of that tonight.
Jackpot.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Well, Kevin, thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure spending time with you today, and we're going to spend some more time this evening together. I'm looking forward to that. Marissa, thanks for coming. Richard, as always, screw you. You've been listening to 5 O'Clock Somewhere Real Estate Podcast. Thanks for listening. Remember, 901-692-7401. Call us, pick our brain, ask us whatever questions you want. You're not obligated to use us. We love to talk to investors. Or go to our website, mymemphisinvestmentproperties.com. Have a great day.
For more common sense real estate tips, listen and subscribe at 5o'clocksomewherepodcast.com. The 5 O'Clock Somewhere Real Estate Investor Podcast is a Sound Ideas Group production.